Good evening. You're watching the Cheese Room podcast. I am the caller, live from the man cave. And I'm joined by three very, very special guests this evening. First of all, good evening, and please hit the like button. We'll be looking back today on we're celebrating the anniversary of a match that maybe some of you will remember. 14th of April, 1991. I was but a boy when we beat the Scum 3-1. And that's what I was singing around the schoolyard all the next week. But before we get on to that, let me introduce our guests and let's go round. It's the sage of Talksport first, wearing his retro When Deli Alley Was Good shirt. Hopefully no birds tweeting in the background. There's definitely some Twitter jokes in it. DaveO, how are you? How are you doing? I'm procrastinating. Move on.
Yeah, very good. Lovely to be back. Lovely to see everyone here. And yes, it's the 33rd anniversary of the day we beat the Scum 3-1.
I mean, what a trophy, but we did win a trophy that year. So there you go. JP, how are you this morning in Australia? You're, of course, a day in front. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I woke up about a total of 20 minutes ago. So I'm alive. I'm kicking. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk about an event that occurred when I was not but a glisten in my father's eye. So
you don't remember it, no?
No, well, 91 aren't we talking about here?
Yeah. How old were you?
Possibly had been conceived.
Possibly had been conceived. That's a glorious piece of information that we did not need. So thanks for that. Jack, welcome back. How is Brooklyn today?
Sweaty and disgusting, like I introduced myself earlier as. That's what it's like at this moment in time. We're preparing ourselves for what is probably a very brief... people seem to like the spring here. I think it's very short and brief. I think it turns into those two words that I used before very, very quickly. I don't even know how long it even is nice for. But yeah, the heat is back. I do enjoy the heat more than I do the cold, so I shouldn't complain too much.
I could do with some of that here. It's been like I'm on holiday this week, which is basically looking after the kids. And it's been raining on and off all week. Went to Alton Towers yesterday, got soaked. And that was not even on the water rides. It was horrendous. But there you go. That's another story for another day. And Pav joining us from Paxton Road TV. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing good.
Wow.
Looking forward to being at the lane tomorrow, celebrating hopefully 3 points. Are you there tomorrow?
No, I'm not. I'm too depressed at the moment with Spurs, so I'm refusing to go.
Okay, well that's good. We'll definitely get into that. I mean, these other three have got good excuses, I suppose, being about the 3,500 miles each away from the stadium. Dave probably a bit more. Dave and JP actually probably a bit more than that. So there we go. So we're going to touch on the Brighton game very briefly. Preview the Bournemouth game, fixture result predictions for the weekend's football, and we're going to look at the 33rd anniversary of when we beat the Scum 3-1. So yeah, there we go. Pav, as you're new to the channel, tell us about you.
So, obviously, huge supporter of Spurs. How I got into Spurs, it was my dad. So my dad's a huge football fan, and he got, sadly, me and the whole family into Spurs. So been crazy about Spurs since. I'm also a primary school teacher as well. So alongside the whole Spurs side of it, I do teaching. But yeah.
We like teachers on this channel. We've got a few. HG is absent tonight, unfortunately. But he's got some mic issues that he's still resolving. So I'm sure we'll fix those and HG will be back on fine form. That's for you, King Hoddle, wondering where Peter Sellers is tonight. That is where he is. So let's get started. Pav, a couple of questions for you. Introductions, getting to know you stuff. First game for Spurs. What was the first game you watched?
I think that was back in 2009. It was at White Hart Lane, playing against West Ham.
Oh dear.
Yes. So that was the one, and we won. Pretty sure it was 2-0. Yeah. So yeah, that was
And
my
hooked from that point
game.
forward. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're always going to win. Favorite current player?
Current player would have to be Kane, only because I think he's the one out of the whole team at the moment that's, bringing something to the team.
And favorite histrionic player? Is he your favorite player of all time, would you say?
Oh, God. Favorite all time probably would have to be Modric.
Oh, okay. That's
Good choice.
Yeah,
Good choice. Very good.
Cultured midfielder. Least favourite player. Who gets on your nerves?
Dier. Dier.
Dier, yeah.
There's a safe bet. There's a safe
Also
bet.
a
Most
good
of us are
choice.
in that camp.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see who's people's least favourite player is. I saw Lamella. Lamella was a lot of people's least favourite player, but did he get sent off for that tackle the other night, DaveO? You'll know.
No, he didn't. Coco didn't. No.
Coco.
I think we're talking about Coco a bit later on.
Oh, we? Oh, well, I'll save that till then. Let's touch on Brighton. Obviously, the hero of the hour. Right there, yeah, looking puzzled as to why he was sent off. But Son's 100th goal came up in fantastic style. He's quoted as saying, "I always try to be in this position, but sometimes it's difficult because the defenders don't want me to shoot." I mean, I've never heard such nonsense in all my life. But also, it's the kind of where we play like we want to be, crossing the ball more. So I have to be in the box because I have to leave the wing backs in a 1v1 situation. DaveO, does that quote speak 1,000 words about Sonny's form this season? He's being pushed central rather than being left to play his natural game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as everyone's saying, because Perisic has been playing, he's really kind of inhibited Son from playing well this season. And because Conte's been coaching him, it's been really inhibiting Son in the fact that he's showing almost Lamella-like tendencies in the inability to release the ball correctly.
Yeah.
And and the fact that Perisic is playing and Conte's on the side of the pitch has meant he's squandered all those chances. Frankfurt away springs to mind and snatching it at things. So it's everyone else's fault. But Son is back now. And for anyone to dare suggest that maybe we should think about selling him this summer, they should be cast out into the wilderness.
Yeah. Jack, would you sell him this summer if the right offer came in?
No, I think he's kind of somebody that's given us enough sort of service at this stage and has proven himself well enough that I think he deserves a bit of credit, and he deserves a bit of credit from the bank to maybe get not a version of a clean slate from the fans, but I would say in some sense that we can give him the benefit of the doubt for next season, that if he has a new manager, that he could be able to prove once again that he's been our Sonny this whole time. I feel like it'd be a bit harsh to write him off after maybe what has been a bit adjustment to how he's being asked to play. I think that what Conte was asking from him was very different maybe than what other managers have asked from him. And so I'd rather just give him the benefit of the doubt. I think I'd sooner get rid of the likes of Dier, Sanchez, those sort of players who I don't think have any credit in the bank whatsoever than a guy like Sonny. Call me, maybe a bit sentimental. Don't really care. I think somebody like Sonny kind of deserves maybe a bit more of a kinder heart from us and deserves that sort of benefit of the doubt.
Where does your kind heart sit with Hugo then, Jack?
Not a kind element or fiber yet.
Don't start him off again, Dave. Gosh.
It's like the Grinch. My heart just
Hardly
shrinks
it was
immediately.
a 10-minute rant last time, I think. But Pav, Sonny, it's gone wrong for him a little bit this season. His quote is very much, "It's not my fault," as DaveO was alluding to in an incredibly sarcastic, un-DaveO-like way. What do you feel about Sonny? Is it a case of the system not getting the best out of him, or does he have to take more accountability?
I think in some ways he does need to take some form of accountability in terms of his form, because there are games where, he looks very invisible and he doesn't look like he's there on the pitch. But then again, I get where he's coming from in terms of, like the form not working in his favour. And it could be, in fact, like a lack of confidence in himself. He could be feeling like, things aren't going the way it is for the team. So he's just, feeling like, do you know what, this isn't working. So he's not putting pressure on himself to work at his best, which in some ways is very wrong for the team as a whole, because he should be playing 100%, but we're not seeing it as fans, and that's why we're getting frustrated. And from my side of it, I get frustrated when I see him on the pitch. Like, yes, with the Brighton game, he got his 100th goal when it was wicked to see, but how much more goals are we going to see this season? Was that just a one-off?
JP, Sonny, I mean, let's be honest, he's not going to be sold because he's a marketing machine for Spurs. But are you frustrated with him equally?
It's been a frustrating season, but he's still our second highest goal scorer, is he not? Like, we can't go to Kieran Trippier Mark II and just like someone has a down season, so we ship him off. He has to stay around.
On that, JP. Don't even start. I'm still
around.
angry about that now.
Well, no one was at the time. Everyone was ranting and raving. Get rid of him. He's rubbish.
Not me. Go look
Daniel
up
Levy's
the Cheese
fault
Room
that he listened
audio
to us.
podcast back in the early days, right? Aaron Jolly, bless him, the founder, was absolutely on his back, and I said, no, he's one bad season. Well, not even a bad season. Part of a bad season. Had a few bad games, and everyone wants to hang him out to dry. He's the one. I mean, what we do for him now, his set piece delivery, his leadership.
Yeah, I've pretty much always said, with the exception of a few players, you have to give them more than one season. Everyone gets one off season, but particularly for someone as good as Sonny, you give him one off season. Bring back Delhi.
Yeah. Bring back Delhi. Delhi's in the run sheet, apparently. DaveO's done the run sheet, and Delhi is in there, so I'm slightly concerned about that.
But the thing is that I'm a nostalgic person, not
really. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I'm a nostalgic person, but I'm not a sentimental person. You can be different.
So and you'd like to bring back Les Brown?
Les Brown, Baker Henry. Anyway, listen. My view is we are awful at selling players. We keep them around for far too long. Look at Delhi. Look at Ericsson. Ericsson in the last 18 months of his Spurs career was not very good. And you have to make these decisions. I was in favour of Trippier being sold. That's the Sissoko penalty in Champions League. Kick-off, Liverpool went straight to Trippier's side of the defence because they're exploiting the weakness there. So I was happy when we sold him. You've got to try and get value. Liverpool are very good at selling players and getting top dollar for them. We just have them hanging around and going out on loan forever and a day. So Sonny, I love Sonny. Don't get me wrong. Mora as well. That's right, Dan, the mod drummer. We keep them around for far too long, and we don't get any value for them. So the point is that we won't sell him. I understand why, but the point is he's a favourite. We all love him, but has he peaked? And I said that earlier in the season, and was
he won the Golden Boot only last season, didn't he? So
I know that, but this season, as I said, he's snatching at chances left, right, and centre. He's missed some absolute sitters, and has he peaked?
He's definitely peaked. Like there's no getting better from Sonny. I think we've seen the best of Sonny, but I think we will see a better season than we've had this. Like he could get back to 15 goal a season, Sonny. But yeah, he's 31 next season. He's always kind of pace has been a big thing of what he's got. So he's definitely peaked, but I don't think he's sell level now. I don't think you get money that's good enough to merit selling him either. So you keep him in the squad. He's not a big part of the problem.
He's not, but he's frustrating. He is part of the problem in terms of conceding goals because they target the left flank with him and Perisic down there for me. And anyone with half a brain goes, "Oh, Perisic can't defend. Sonny ain't going to track back." So actually, he has been a substantial part of the problem, and his goals return's been terrible, as Dave's touched on. So I think there's a case there for a Sacred Cow episode, Dave.
Maybe it's coming back in the summer.
I think I will authorise some more Sacred Cows. How's that? There, breaking news: DaveO gets a second season.
But we'll have to talk about that because Netflix and Dave are in talks with me about taking it over there.
Dave, who's Dave?
The comedy channel Dave, isn't it?
Okay. So where does Sonny stand in the club's greats? Then would you say, Jack? Would you say? Probably worse than Kane, better than Soldado.
It's a wide range. Like, I don't even know if you could miss in that range. Maybe Vincent Janssen would be a wider range.
Don't forget Vinny.
I kind of think about it. Is he, during my lifetime, which is, of course, not a very long Spurs, lifetime. I would venture to say next to Kane is the best player of my sort of fandom. I think Gareth Bale, it's hard to compare maybe him with Gareth Bale, but I would say Sonny, that's what I'm comparing him next to. I think Harry Kane is the best player of my lifetime, probably will be the best player I will ever see in my lifetime. But then I kind of go, Sonny is probably a very close second, maybe Gareth Bale, but that's where I'm kind of comparing it next to. So for maybe someone my age of around 25, I would say probably the best, second, third best player of our lifetime of someone around my age group. That's how I would put it.
Pav, better than Lamella, but maybe worse than Jermaine Defoe?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what Jack said because I'm similar age group. I'm 22, so yeah, I'd say better than Lamella. Jermaine Defoe. Yeah, I'd say so. I agree. Yeah.
I love Defoe, but Sonny is a much better player. It's fair to say. Go on.
I think history will probably look on them in similar brackets, though.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think, well, there'll be more kind of globally, Sonny will have more appeal. But I think in the UK, I think they'll be looked on similarly.
DaveO,
Defoe wasn't as universally hated by other clubs as Sonny is. So
very true, yeah, very true. And that is the mark of a good player. DaveO, I'm going to come back to you to round this out with some sort of John's questions. Son or Waddle? Try and keep it succinct if you can, because I know you'd like to ramble.
The Waddler, every day of the week. Great player. Come on.
Really?
Both-footed, turning them inside out. Great goals. Do me a
Son or
favour.
Ginola?
Son.
Okay.
Wow.
Son or Ramon Vega? Ramon Vega.
Ramon Vega.
He's got very vocal on Twitter about Tottenham.
I mean, he's much better at Twitter than he was at football. Let's be really honest. He was terrible at Spurs.
I saw him once in a restaurant in Hampstead and went round him very easily to the exit door.
You weren't the only one that season, unfortunately.
Correct.
Yeah. What else to take out of that game? So here we go. Chance for Poch in and Levy out. Pav, what are you thinking about that? Poch in, who's your man for the job?
So I was saying this yesterday on our stream that, I was at first very 50-50 and then I got convinced a bit to sway towards Poch. So from my side of it, the reason why is because his love and passion for the club, like that, there's no doubt about that there. And the fans love him. Perfect example was, last game, the chance, like everyone, like it seems like around 75% of us want him in. But it's a case of, is he going to get backed? Now, Levy done him over back when he got sacked. Is that going to happen again? We need a manager that's going to be backed. So he's not my first choice. I'd say third choice he is. Only because I feel like Levy isn't going to back him in terms of, transfer windows and that sort of thing and making decisions. So I'd say he's my third choice.
Do you think Levy backed Conte?
No. You can see it within the transfer windows. It's a perfect example. Conte didn't get all the players that he wanted and the club got players that they wanted. And Conte made a point of not playing those players. And then that whole thing with Conte doing that rant about Spurs and how frustrated he was with the club shows that, there was something going on there between him and Levy. Clear, as ever can be. I don't think that Levy had the respect for Conte there. He wanted to bring Conte in to win things, but if you're not going to provide him with, the money and the control, then what's the point?
JP, you're on mute. You're still on mute. I can see you talking. Your lips are moving, but nothing's. No, you're still on mute.
He's still on mute.
Is it not through StreamYard? Maybe
He's got an issue with his brand new mic.
There you go.
Someone's
there you go.
done me a dodgy. Conte did come out during the transfer window though and say, "I'm happy with my squad. I'm happy with the squad I've got." So I don't know. I think there was definitely some he clearly didn't want Jed Spence and wanted someone else. I think he was okay with we can't get in Bastoni, we'll get in Longley situation. I think he was probably at the time happy with Bissouma and some of that other business he did.
Most of us were at the time, JP.
Yeah, but I think that he's then also incredibly reactionary and gone, oh, it's not working out. I'm not liking what I see from Bissouma, so therefore I never got what I wanted. So I think there's a bit of pot A, bit of pot B.
Chat?
Yes and no. I think the defense was not upgraded, and the defense also there were no players that were moved on this summer. Players like Davinson Sanchez could have easily been moved on when they weren't. And there definitely could have been.
Play. Who's buying him?
That's it. Also during that summer when nobody had any money. That's a good point. But the point being, though, caller, is that I think we have suffered this season from there actually being no real competition for the likes of Eric Dier, for the likes of Sanchez, for the likes of Davies. Even Longley has been the only new addition really to that back line. And so it is basically this whole season was sort of resting on Eric Dier and Davies and those guys having the same form that they had towards the tail end of last season. They were towards the tail end of last season. They looked spectacular, but we've seen this before with them where they are able to kind of be pretty good for a few months or so, but then they will eventually sort of reach this wall all of a sudden where they really do drop out of form. And I think that's where maybe the ownership, as well as probably Conte, kind of made the mistake of thinking that these guys were going to be good enough to be able to carry on.
I think that was the problem. I think the problem was they finished the season last season so well defensively.
Strong, yeah.
That I think it wasn't a priority to upgrade in the summer.
And that's it's hard to know whose fault that is.
Bastoni didn't want to come. Ultimately, that's the reason he's not here. Is because Bastoni said no.
I agree.
So,
but it's hard to know whose fault that is because, if it's Conte believing Dier and these guys were going to be good enough for this season, that falls on him, right? Because that was his choice to not upgrade them. But if it then was more Daniel Levy and others kind of saying you're going to stick with Dier and these guys for the rest of the season, it falls on them. The latter, I find it to be a bit of a mix of both. I actually do think Antonio Conte probably thought that Dier and these guys were going to be able to continue, but he also was maybe a bit guilty of being a bit too picky when it came to the center backs he was after this summer, Gvardiol, Bastoni, etc. I think he could have done with an Ndika. He could have done with a Max Kilman. He could have done with a Mark Guehi or somebody this summer, but he didn't take that chance. He, I guess, held out for somebody like a Bastoni, and I think we paid the price for it. I think it was sort of him being too stubborn with the defenders he wanted, and maybe it was him being too stubborn with thinking that Dier and Davies and those guys were going to give him another good season.
The whole concept of was he backed or not really is dependent on what you determine as backed, because no manager gets, with the size of the rebuild that Spurs
They're not going to get Chelsea money.
No, they're not going to get everyone that they want in 1 or 2 windows. So he spent a lot of money. We spent some of it on players that he clearly didn't want, but we also spent it on players that I'm convinced he did want at the time, and then just completely misused or didn't use.
I think that's probably a fair shout. Dave, you normally quite sage on all matters regarding Daniel Levy. What was your take on it?
Well, I think it's great that we've got 2 debutants on this week who've both expressed anti-Levy views. It's just fantastic.
Sounds like we're not getting our invoice from the.
Yeah. Shush! Don't talk about the invoice from Enic. It's Tottenham away or Tottenham away too. Will be whatever. Look, I was really excited about Bissouma. Really excited. I thought it was a really, mates of mine at Brighton were gutted that we got him. And he has been a bit misused. I think he's better off with 3 in the midfield, which has been our problem all season, that we've not been playing 3 in the midfield. Longley, I said from the get-go he was rubbish. Other people argued with me about it, and I was right. He is rubbish. The best time that he's looked good is when Davies has played left wing back alongside him. And, we didn't go out and spend the money that we wanted to spend on a top quality centre back that Conte wanted. Richarlison's a funny one because apparently Levy wanted to take advantage of Everton's FFP issues. So he spent 50 million smackers rising up to 60. It's a strange way of taking advantage of someone's financial situation. But anyway, and Richarlison, the narrative was from Conte that he could play across the front three, and it's quite clear he can't. He's better off in a central role, and his injury record's been appalling. So I think the Spence thing was a joke. 18 million. We don't have 18 million quid to spend on someone who's the potential for a now manager. So it's a mixture. But what I'm saying is that we're not a Liverpool or
they just should have bought They should have bought Pedro Porro then, right? That's the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Or someone of that quality. That's the reality of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with buying these players, your Spencers, your Bryan Hills, etc. You got to have people. You got to have talent in reserve coming through, people to loan out. That's what all successful clubs do. And that's why I always talk about you've got a pot of money for here and now, and you've got a pot of money for future talent. And Spence absolutely fits into that future talent pot. The problem is that we didn't then have the foresight to go, well, Doherty ain't going to cut it. Emerson is not suited to that system. So we need to buy Pedro Porro. If that's what's on the shopping list, that's what's on the shopping list. And I get there's ins and outs of it, and maybe it was he's the one we wanted, and we couldn't do it till January, etc., etc. But you got to find a way around that if you're going to be competitive.
Isn't it also just how you spend the money? Like at the end of the day, we spent 150 odd million or close to that. So it's just how you spent it. Like if we decide to spend 60 million on Richarlison, is maybe as good of a decision it was to bring in a backup striker, which we absolutely needed. Maybe we could have spent 60 million on a different position and spent less on a backup striker. It's like
I think
120 million should be enough.
Conte was adamant we must have that backup forward.
Yeah.
I think most of the fan base at the time would probably.
So maybe we could have done with like an Emmanuel Dennis or something like that instead of like a Richarlison, right? Somebody that
maybe bring a Danjuma in, and then don't play him. Exactly. Perfect. That's what you need.
Here's a question for Jack.
Oh, I see here. Do you think Messi will come back? I hope so. Old Trafford was spared of his brilliance. Unfortunately, they didn't decide to bring him off the bench to make an impact onto the game. But maybe because Lamella was too busy getting two-footed challenges that they decided to keep him on. With Hill, though, if we do get in a young and sort of progressive manager, I don't see why not Hill would make a good impression. He's made a good impression with Antonio Conte, and Antonio Conte absolutely despised our youth, and yet he seemed to have a bit of a soft spot for Bryan Hill and even related him to the likes of Bernardo Silva. And so if you're going to get that out of an Antonio Conte, who seems very, not very praising, especially recent to our Spurs players, I think maybe there's a good chance he can make a good impression on the next manager if given that chance. And let's say if we play like a 4-2-3-1 or some version of a 4-3-3, I could see him doing very well out wide or even playing through the middle. Some people have thought that he'd be quite good even through the middle as kind of like a number 10 of some kind. So I think he has a good chance if he makes the right impression with a new manager. Bring back the fifth Beatle.
So
the spelling bee, and also, everybody has a spelling bee champion.
So Pav, be very. You're on mute again, I think, JP. I was going to ask Pav this question. Now, Pav, be very careful the way you answer this. What do you think of Bryan Hill?
Honestly, I think he has potential, but he's not at the right stage right now. When you see how he was playing with us, he was too lightweight. He wasn't strong enough, constant falling over, lack of control of the ball, losing it all the time. He's not strong enough. He doesn't have that, strength in him to have that control. And my dad actually made this point, and he said that, you know, him being loaned out to what I can't even remember what club he's gone to.
Sevilla.
Yeah, him being loaned out there, he shouldn't be loaned out to a club like that. He should be loaned out to like a championship club, like somewhere in England, just to, you know, build up that strength in those sorts of competitions rather than, you know, going outside of England. He's not going to build up that strength. I don't know how he's playing there, but if he does come back, I think he'll just be the same as he was before.
He's one of those players that I think he needs like a run of like 5 or 6 games to like know if he's going to make it or not. I think in that little stretch we had during the injury crisis that he was starting to do all right and showed a few bits, particularly in the Champions League, but I think he was starting to get it a bit in the Premier League. But my concern with him is that we've broken him. Like we've broken a number of players over recent times, and
Mentally,
he just wants to, and I think he just wants to go back home. I think his dream of the Premier League we've just kind of destroyed, and he's gone, nah, I'm happy in Spain, I want to be happy.
Or even his love for Spurs has been probably a bit tested in any sense.
I mean, I don't believe anyone that, you know, we're bringing in really has a love for the club. You don't see it on the pitch, do you? So,
Or if he were to develop any kind of connection for Spurs, it probably has been definitely tested, and he probably finds it to be more of a reluctance than anything.
I will say, if you're right and Antonio Conte had a soft spot for him, that's some way of showing it. Here you are. Good game last week.
There's only so many people he brought off the bench, though. There's only so many people he would bring off the bench, and he brought off Bryan Hill more often than he brought off, you know, other people. So
but he only brought him on like 3 times. We're not setting a high bar.
We forgot Danjuma existed, so I think it's a tiny bit better.
Jack's fighting the good fight still for Bryan Hill.
Sacred cow. It's a mini sacred cow.
I love Bryan Hill. I hope he makes it. I think he will make it, but whether that he makes it at Spurs could be another case of Juan Foyth, couldn't it? You know, it might just be that he's better off in a different league, and he's Foyth has been actually tagged with return to the Premier League. I see. I mean, that was a massive mistake. Selling him for what, 12 million or something.
With Lucas Moura going,
selling him wasn't the mistake. Selling him was not the mistake. The mistake had already been made by not giving him any minutes in the 2 or 3 seasons prior, to the point where he now was not going to be a Spurs level player because we destroyed his development.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Hang on. There's a bit of Foyth revisionism going on here, right?
Not from me, Dave. I've always backed the guy. I like to give youth a chance. I'm not nostalgic.
Pod number 722, when I was saying about Foyth. Listen, on Foyth, I think that, you know, there's a few times when he played, there's a couple of times we bring the ball out of defence. I think his last one under Jose, when he brought the ball out against Norwich at Carrow Road, lost it, and they equalised, right? And Norwich were crap that season again. So I think the thing with Foyth is that he played right back against West Ham when they won at our the first win at the stadium was when West Ham beat us there, much to their delight. And he played right back, and he looked all right. He had a couple of times he played right back. Then they were earmarked him to play there in Poch's very final season. And I think, surprise, surprise, he went away to Argentina and he got injured. That's what they all do when they go to Argentina. And he didn't play. And then Mourinho came in, and that was that. So I think he should have been given more of a go at right back, which is where he's excelled at Villarreal. So him and Sanchez were the Vertonghen Alderweireld replacements. Imagine that, eh?
Steve Hitchen.
Yeah.
Hitchen. Here we go.
Well,
another bet noir.
He was the guy who was supposed to sign the decent talent, wasn't he? Anyway, Zerbi also ruled himself out of the vacant manager's position. I'm disappointed about that. We did a pod with Sandro, the Spurs beast legend, on in the week prior, and he said Zerbi, he's actually mentoring Sandro to become a coach or manager, and how great he would be at Spurs, perfect fit for the job. But Zerbi, I mean, he made a bit of a tit of himself on the touchlines, I thought, Pav. And are you disappointed he's ruled himself out? Would you have liked to see him at White Hart Lane?
I would have. I think he would have been great for the job. I think he has that mentality that can fit around our ethos. But like you said, the way that he acted on the weekend, it was shocking. After seeing that, I was like, no, don't want you out of the club. Yeah, the way he acted was pathetic. But after that game against Brighton and some of the comments that he made as well, it kind of just shows like how he would have been like as a manager. Like some of the fans might not have liked him with some of the comments that he made. You might disagree with me, but yeah, just didn't work.
What comment in particular?
Can't remember off the top of my head. Come back to me. I'll think and come back to me.
Okay. Zerbi, Jack, you disappointed? He's not coming.
Yeah, he kind of ruined his audition, didn't he? Maybe it all got to his head a little too quickly. Maybe he got a little nervous. It seems like he's also a guy that's a bit guilty of maybe not reading the full article. We're often guilty of just reading the headlines of something and then just making up the rest of the article. But maybe he didn't read much deeper. And kind of, I'll be honest, on a human level, a bit embarrassing, I think, on his case, because the fact that Stellini did have such like high praise for him, and then he just didn't have any knowledge of that whatsoever, and then had only read one little snippet that apparently was made out to be that Stellini maybe said one slightly, maybe, I don't know, passive aggressive or whatever it was thing, and he just blows up over this, despite maybe not even watching Stellini's press conference in the first place, I think is kind of, on a human level, quite embarrassing, because he really made a big fit of it, and he really drew a lot of attention. He had a lot of the cameras on him and everything, but it was kind of all for really nothing. Like, Stellini was rightfully so very confused and very like, just, I don't know where this is coming from. And yeah, I would say it was quite hilarious to watch and very fun to watch. But when you really think about it, it's not like there really is any beef or anything between them. It was all made up by Zerbi. So kind of,
it was
embarrassing.
It was. Yeah, go on, Puff.
Can I just say, going on from Jack's point, when he was speaking in the press conference after the game, he barely took any accountability for what happened on the touchline. It just seemed like he full on put the blame on Stellini. And that's why Stellini was so shocked. And when he referred to foxy people and, saying that, it was like, what are you on about? Like, if you look, when Stellini got that red card, I was like, what was he doing? Like, because Stellini was just at the back. Like, it wasn't even
hilarious.
And I've got the red card. So, shocking.
Stellini getting that red is
the foxy
actually,
person. I wonder what he is.
It's actually made my season, that, because the puzzled look on his face, it probably says everything that's going to be said about his managerial tenure at the club, to be honest. Because, yeah. Well,
you just know that, like, if this season goes badly at the end of it, that's going to be the meme that goes around.
That will be the meme.
What? We didn't make Champions League? What?
Yeah, exactly.
You can make subs? What?
Yeah. And Brighton, I've seen a lot of activity on Twitter this week. DaveO, you're all over Twitter these days, aren't you? Following your Talksport fame. He's seen his Twitter followers go from about 50 to 500 at least. Is that about right count, Dave? Am I on the right track?
They've dropped off this week because I think people were thinking I was some lunatic Levy out person, and
one hit wonder. You just a one.
Yeah, and then they see me talking about Tears for Fears, and they just disappear to the exit.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. They saw what you actually post and thought, Jesus Christ, we're not following him. The rivalry that Brighton fans seem to have invented on Twitter. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, they've got the M23 derby with Crystal Palace that they get very upset about. And now this. Listen, I've got a lot of love for Brighton. I've had some great weekends in Brighton, cracking places. We talked about the Intertoto Cup when we previewed the game and that being on, Alan Pardew playing at Tottenham. So I send my love to Brighton. I got some good mates who are Brighton fans, so they're upset. We'd be upset the same way. We would be upset, and we get that. And we absolutely, that game, how we won it, I've got no idea, right?
Big leagues.
And they were robbed, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah. And Yeah, just look at that.
There you go.
I am no. What? Hang on a second. I wasn't looking at that one. I was looking at. Apparently, I'm a paid sycophant. There we go. That's the one. We're all in the pay of Enic. All of us.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Those charges have been levelled, and we plead not guilty. Because I know this because I'm only driving a Tesla, not a roller. But there you go. Jack, disappointed in Brighton's fan base as well, are you?
I'm more disappointed in the entirety of the Premier League and the fan base of it, because it does feel like the way that this has caught attention. Like I think I saw something as far as like somebody said basically when the whole VAR decisions, they were like, all the decisions before, like, you know, were bad enough, but now this isn't even funny anymore, or like something like some like big person wrote like after the Brighton game. And I just found that to be like, just, it feels like whenever Spurs were in these situations, like we have definitely been in Brighton's situation after a game where we've had some VAR decisions either not be made that should have been made, or sometimes where they did intervene and then all of a sudden it was, you know, some made up offsides or whatever it was. And it felt like it was always met with, whenever we complained about it, it was always met with typical cry more Spurs fans and, you know, kind of banter and things like that. But the moment that we are like the benefactors, or the moment that we are like the beneficiaries of a VAR decision, now that we're not the victim anymore, it feels like everybody's decided to take a stand like against VAR. Now it's the final straw because Spurs have finally benefited from VAR. The one thing I'm a bit worried about, though, I know I'm not answering your question entirely, but I am a bit worried that we used up all our VAR luck in one game, and now for the rest of the season, we're not going to get any decisions ever again.
It might be the case. Yeah.
All our
It's not
VAR
as much
luck.
Brighton. I'm more disappointed with the rest of the Premier League, because it seems like it really was blown out of proportion, those decisions, because I've seen as shocking decisions. 2 weeks ago, we saw Thilo Kehrer like dribble the ball like it was a basketball in our own box, you know, in our own stadium in that West Ham game. Like that was the most obvious penalty we've ever seen, and it wasn't given. It was VAR checked and everything, and no one made a murmur or even like said anything about it whatsoever. So that's where I'm coming from. It feels like the moment we benefit from it, no one's, you know, now it's too late, or now VAR is too much or something silly.
To be fair as well, like the Brighton fans will rightfully go off that they, you know, many decisions went against them. One decision was wrong. Like the handballs were handball, and the one that was wrong was the penalty at the end. They should have had a penalty at the end.
Penalty.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's had, like, every single team has had games where there was a penalty that, you know, you could have called that didn't get called, or a penalty that should have been that wasn't called.
I mean, it was blatant.
I've seen that, but I've seen that happen to Richarlison 3 times this season, like him taken down in the box like that. Like I've seen Richie out there. Yeah, exactly.
We could be complaining the other way that, like, well, if that's not a penalty, then when we played Everton, what was Pape Sarr's like little thing in the box was definitely not a penalty then. Like, it is being blown out of proportion because there were a lot of close calls that went against them, and had they not handballed the ball, they should have slapped us up. But it was one wrong decision in the match. And yes, it cost them a point, but it was one wrong decision, not 7.
No, agreed. 100 people watching, please do smash that like button, and consider joining our Patreon group. There is Dave beautifully modelling the merchandise, which he's not tonight. He's wearing his Dele Alli shirt. But you get all of this and more. So £3 a month, you get Cheese Room merchandise after 6 months. Fancy football, exclusive content, prize and discounts, and a chat group. There's also Seb's predictor score and prizes at the end of it. And the chat group, to be honest, is worth the money itself. So if you want to chat with like-minded Cheese Room and Tottenham fans, go over to patreon.com/Cheese Room podcast. I mean, Brighton, the reality of it is it's been and gone. We need to move on. Let's look towards Bournemouth. As the only one of us going at the weekend, I am optimistic about this. Let's have a look at some statistics. So there they are in the league, 15th place. Still not really out of that relegation dogfight. So they need the points. But, you know, I'm going to say we're going to take them all. There's their starting 11. JP, anything that worries you in this mix?
Yeah, the team they're going to be playing against.
is a good answer.
Like looking at their squad, no, they're like we on paper are much better than them. We should beat them, but my word, like what version of Tottenham Hotspur is going to turn up?
Well, this is a good
Hard
question.
to disagree.
This is a good question. Pav, know much about Bournemouth?
I'm not worried about their team, if I'm being completely honest. We've got the better team. It's just about what we bring to the table. Spurs are Spurs. We tend to have good games and bad games. Now, even though this is at home, it depends on, the formation that we play in. Now that Stellini is not going to be, there, and it'll be I forgot his name now. Oh my god. Ryan Mason. Yeah, if he's going to be obviously there on the touchline, it'll be interesting to see how we play under him. Even though Stellini will be having his input and stuff, but he won't be there on the touchline. So it'll be interesting to see if we kind of play a different way under Mason.
I mean, I would have said the nicest thing about Bournemouth is Sandbanks, actually. DaveO, pretty close to there. Lovely part of the world, but the football team's a bit shite, isn't it?
I used to go on holiday at Bournemouth with my grandma, so happy memories. And we all know who lives in Sandbanks. It's Harry Redknapp.
Harry,
with Rosie 47, the Monaco bank account. So Bournemouth, I'm just noticing that they're minus 29, and of course they let in nine goals at Liverpool, didn't they? And Scott Parker in his nice cardigan said they weren't doing very well, and he got the flip. So they've actually done very well to actually be where they are, I think. And the relegation battle's very, very interesting this year. Really interesting. We could see some relatively big guys go down this year, which would be fantastic. I'd love it if West Ham, Leicester, and Everton all went down. Oh, it would be hilarious. It would be hilarious.
I'd love that too. It's almost too much to ask for, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so like Liverpool beat them 9-0 earlier this year. I've got a good feeling we're going to win 9-0. We're going to have 3 playing. And what I'd like to see as well is because Mason's Mason's on the sidelines, and one theory was why Stellini got it is because Mason was going to go on paternity leave. And so what I'd like to see tomorrow is the newborn baby. They didn't get a babysitter, and he's on the side of the pitch with the baby, feeding the baby whilst barking instructions at the same time, and getting into a bit of touchline biffo at the same time. That'd be good.
I like a bit of biffo. Here is the form. I
was just going to say quickly, I do feel like Gary O'Neill has actually punched well above his weight this season and actually is making a pretty decent crack at, I don't know, I think he deserves actually a Premier League job after, even if they were to get relegated. I think he deserves a Premier League job.
Well, we have
He's taken over from a complaining Scott Parker, right? It said that the squad wasn't good enough in the first place. So I don't know. I think he's done a pretty good job at it, especially if they were to survive. He has probably the worst squad on paper, in my opinion. So,
well, their form's not bad, is it? I mean,
he's taken some scalps this season, if I'm not mistaken, either. So Gary O'Neill has looked quite good.
Liverpool, yeah.
He made us. He turned us into a disaster class. It was we were 2-0 down against us.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, look, there's a top scorers. Billing, Kiefer Moore, no him.
How much did Bournemouth pay for Solanke?
I was just thinking that. It's like 30 million. I don't know if that's anywhere near correct, but it feels about the number.
It feels like that. That's another example of Liverpool selling well.
And there you go. This is what so don't hold the ball. They're terrible at holding the ball. So that's good because we're good at holding it and doing absolutely nothing with it. Should be nothing to worry about, right? Should be a nice stroll in the park, and there we are with our league position. So, depending on the results, we could go back into the top 4. You never know. Lots of reasons to feel optimistic, no?
Yeah, if I'm putting my positive hat on, everything that you've just shown, we should be the ones to win. But it depends how we turn up. In some ways, if I'm being honest, in some ways I am a little bit on the side of, this could go the other way. Only because we have very, very on and off days, right? And it depends how the players turn up and their mentality when they're on the pitch. Because they could easily turn up on the pitch and be like, okay, do you know what? Get like 1 or 2 goals in, and then automatically just sit back and be like, oh, we're going to win this, and then let Bournemouth take over, because that's what I've seen. Like, it's been a constant thing that we'll get 1 or 2 goals in, and then we just sit back and relax and just be like, yeah, okay, we're going to win, and then that's when we get turned over. So yes, it's Bournemouth that we're playing, but if that's how we're going to play, anything can happen.
I don't think we have to worry about that, because I don't think we'll score 1 or 2 goals. So no issues at all.
Oh, ye of little faith, JP. Well, look, Spurs have won all 5 of their home Premier League games against Bournemouth, beating them in all 5 campaigns between 2015-16 and 19-20. Bournemouth have won 4 of their past 8 Premier League games, so they are in a little bit of form, as we've shown you already, which is as many as they had in their first 22 games this season. Following their 1-0 win at Leicester last time out, the Cherries are looking for back-to-back top-flight away game wins for the first time since 2018. So there you go. Team news, we're without Bentancur, obviously, Bissouma, Davis, Royale and Sessegnon, whilst Lucas Moura mercifully is banned. And Stellini will be obviously touchline suspension, as Dave's touched on already. Bournemouth are waiting on news of fitness of Sensi and Traore. So there you go. And Ryan Fredericks and Junior Stanislas remain on the sidelines. So there you go.
Great research there, caller. Great research.
I mean, you've done a spiffing job with the run sheet, Dave. And as you said to me before the show, you never use my run sheet. So there you go. I've used it. So I don't expect to be moaned at for the next 6 months.
My talent at copying and pasting from a website is second.
I could tell you didn't write.
Not a Google Docs man, though. I noticed, David Harris.
No, I am.
Harris
I
is a
send
Google
it.
Docs guy.
No, we are. I send it to you in a Word format just to help you out. But this is behind the scenes chatter. We don't need to lift a curtain to the viewing public on how we do.
DaveO's run sheet secrets,
I think the quality of the show gives away the amount of effort we put into the run sheet. As
the
it
amount
is
of research. Yeah.
Hang on a minute. That's about an hour and a half last night, and I left the pub early. Thank you very much. I had three beers, and I went home, and I didn't go and have a kebab and fall asleep on the couch.
All I saw was photos of your beer.
Sacrifice.
Yes.
Anyway, how are we feeling about this? So let's go around the room. DaveO, what are you saying? What's the score going to be, and who's going to win?
We're going to win. We're going to win 3-2. We're going to have 2 goals disallowed for VAR. And in a game somewhere else, there's going to be an incident which some journalist is going to link back to Harry Kane. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, JP.
We're going to win 1-0. Harry Kane's going to score in the first 18 minutes with a penalty. And then we will just ride out the rest of the game, and Bournemouth will miss or hit the post at least twice.
Okay, Pav, what are you saying?
If I'm putting my positive hat on, I'd say we're going to win 2-1. Kane scoring one of the goals, and then Pedro scoring the other one.
Okay.
And Pav, if you took your hat off
from a free kick, yeah.
If you took your hat off, Pav, and just said what you think's going to happen.
We lose 2-0.
Okay.
Ooh,
Okay.
Brutal.
Okay.
Put your hat back on quick.
Yeah, I'll send you mine.
That's
Jack,
why I said I have to have my positive hat on.
yeah, absolutely. Jack, what are you saying?
I've said today 3-1. I'm going to stick by it. I say we go 1-0 up quite early into the half. And then in typical Spurs fashion, after going 1-0 up quite early, we'll immediately turn into the opposite team and start playing worse. And we'll barely get by into the
Would you
the
put a
rest of the
tenner
half.
on that, would you?
I think that's how we played this whole season. I would absolutely put a tenner on us going early, going up. I would say we could score. I would put a tenner on us scoring within the first 15 minutes. I actually do think a Sonny could score again. I could see Harry Kane scoring. I could see one of those two scoring the first 15
Well, we
minutes.
have some seriously optimistic people in the chat. Dan, shout out Dan, channel member. Kane Brace and Richie hat-trick. I mean, Richie's got to get on the pitch first, man. But yeah, 5-0 interesting. 3-0 Danjuma hat-trick. I'm sure that's tongue-in-cheek. 3-1. 3-1. Loss of 3-1s. I'm going to say we're going to get a 4-1 victory. I'm very confident about this one. I think Bournemouth have got nothing to worry us at all. Sonny's coming back into form. He's back, DaveO. He's back. Kane is obviously Harry Kane. And, we've got the firepower to blow them away. And I'll just remind you that all last week when you were predicting doom and gloom versus Brighton, and we're going to get beat, we're going to get played off the park. And what did I say? We could win 2-1. I said we'll win. We will be in the ascendancy. We've got world-class players. We have got world-class players. And they can change any game. So we might come across Brighton. We're a much better team than us, but we have got the talent on the pitch to score goals. And that is ultimately, if they can put it together, that's what counts. But the any yellow card bets, Romero, the Romero yellow card bet is now back on. That is going on every single week.
Can I ask? There's a lot of talk in the chat about Danjuma and Richarlison getting goals. Which one of Danjuma and Richarlison do you think gets on the pitch?
Richarlison
is still somewhat recovering. I think he pushed himself early to recover to the last game, and I think they were not even going to use him supposedly because they didn't think he was ready yet. So I'm curious if he actually is ready this time.
They didn't use him, so yeah.
I honestly don't think there'll be much of a need. I think you'll start with the same front three, and I think Sonny is a confidence player as much as anything. So you've seen it in previous seasons. Nothing like this season is bad, right? But he has peaks and troughs, periods of games where he's very good, periods of games where he's terrible. In every season as a Spurs player in a Spurs shirt, he is a confidence player. That goal will have given him so much confidence. It really will. So I do think you'll see an upturn in his form. Kane's Kane, and Kulu for me, he's been a bit disappointing really, but recently. But I thought he looked a lot better against Brighton. I think Bournemouth will give us space up top, and I think that's where our front three are very effective. I think when we play good teams, they're less effective because they're better marked. But I think they'll have space.
I think Kulu's been crap this season, and would you spend the rest of them? Here's a sacred cow. Would you pay the rest of the instalment or send him back to Juventus?
I think it's been taken out of our hands because I think he's hit the criteria, the obligation. Yeah, but it is like if we hadn't, it is probably becoming a question.
No question to me because you've seen where his ceiling is and you can see what he's capable of. So absolutely, he's not the only one who've had a shit season. He's got quality.
He also did have the injury. He also did have the injury the first half of the season, which I don't think he's fully recovered from at any point. So I think
you'd be crazy to send him back, Dave.
But if you just look at it on the basis of we've had him, call it 18 months at this point, we've got 3 or 4 months of really good.
And he's 21.
And he's only 21, yeah. But this season's not been. It's on the basis of
he's
this season.
21, is he? He's older than 21, surely.
I think he might have turned 22.
Okay.
The other thing, though, is that I think we're also post honeymoon period with Kulusevski because he had basically better numbers than Bukayo Saka even had, when he had come into the Premier League. Wasn't it the case that he was practically the most informed player like since coming in. Like, not even like if people had said if he had basically been, people were considering him for like signing of the season because his numbers were that ridiculous that they could stack him up to people who had been here a whole season that season. So I think that's where we're at, where he just hit the ground. He hit the ground running more than almost any other signing I'd seen in a long time. And I think that's what we're probably dealing with, is maybe just a bit post. Yeah.
Well, he's praying that Southampton stay up, because there's only 2 decent games this season has been against Southampton, right? Because their left side of their defence is crap, as both our Southampton guests have said this season when they've come on the show, right? And I just like to pay my respect to my fellow panelists tonight, because I've never, like, when we go around and ask for score predictions again, I've never heard such specific analysis of what's going to happen at certain points in the game. It's just amazing. I'm very impressed. You think I'm taking the piss? I'm not.
Foresight. Yeah, foresight.
And in the 18th minute, there's going to be a tannoy announcement. Could the person with the Nissan Micra parked on the high road? We don't hear that anymore, do we, at the ground?
No.
I miss that.
No.
All on the run sheet.
I blame Enic.
Oh, well, you blame Enic for literally everything, and that's fine. There is a lot to answer for, including that wonderful F1 track that they're building into the South Stand. Here's a question for you then. At the start of this season, would we have taken where we are now? Are we about where you thought we would be, better or worse? So I'm going to start with you, Pav, and then pass it round.
I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think that we would have been in the top 4. Only because Conte, he just came, if I'm being honest, I didn't think that he'd be sacked, when we were starting the season off. But I thought, what, he seemed more confident, could go our way. But then when you saw that drop, I'm not surprised. So, yeah, I'd say at the start of the season, I would have thought we'd be top 4, secure top 4.
I think John's comment was valid, that most people thought we'd be, pushing for third. I thought we'd be 3rd or 4th, but comfortably in 4th, if that's where we were. I didn't expect Arsenal to be as good as they've been this year. I thought they would have imploded a lot earlier, at all. So yeah, I think that's probably what's thrown a lot of people off in terms of getting us top 4. But we are not in the position that any of us expect us to be, except for maybe DaveO, who thought we might be a Europa Conference League team.
I would argue that almost every team in the top 7 is not where they expected to be. I think Man City is in 2nd. They are not expecting to be in 2nd. Arsenal fans certainly weren't expecting to be leading a title race. Chelsea definitely were not expecting to be where they are right now. Liverpool were not expecting to be where they are. You look at probably Newcastle, as much as Newcastle fans were optimistic going into the season, I don't think they were this optimistic that they would be pushing for top 4 in this sort of manner. Man United, if you look at what they were like in the beginning of the season, people were digging into their defeat or whatever it was to Liverpool or something, right? I think it was just like Man United after the Brentford game. Everybody thought they were finishing mid-table. It's just sort of like, honestly, I don't think any team in that top half is where they thought they would be probably in the beginning of the season. I don't think anybody's Premier League table is correct or even close to what they probably originally predicted.
I think if you had said to Spurs fans at the start of the year, all right, here's like when we'd made all of our signings, we got to the end of the January window and we turned around and said, okay, well, here's a squad you've got, but then you're going to lose Richarlison for however long we lost him at the start of the year. You're going to lose Kulusevski he was out for a couple of months. Bentancur is going to be gone for the back half of the year. Bissouma is going to be gone for the back half of the year. Lloris is going to be out for a few weeks. We probably then would have revised our expectations, going, geez, that's going to be a tough season. Like 4th or 5th, probably. Like that's probably what we're looking at, which is where we're sitting right now. So,
or if you had described all those things and then you asked somebody to guess like where we were or something, they probably would have guessed 7th or 8th. Or would have guessed, that's a good point.
I think because of how dire the football's been this year, we do kind of overlook that we've had a pretty significant run of injuries. The Kulusevski one at the start of the year, I think, was probably the most important one that we've had, because there was that stretch where there was just nothing, like zero creativity in the team. So it's been a problem, but no, it's not where, like at the start of the year, with the expectations we had of what this season could be. Not all of it is the squad or Conte's fault, because injuries have played a part, but it's not been great.
So if I can come to answer the question, and so JP was thinking, stereotyping me, that here on a bright sunny day, I sit in a darkened room all day long, considering all things Enic and my lot in life. At the start of this season, I said I thought we'd get third after the heavy investment of up to 150 million for on and off the field activities by our owners. I thought, given Chelsea's travails, which have got worse, I thought I was thinking third. Liverpool, Man City, number 2. So I never saw Liverpool falling off a cliff. I never thought that the Gooners was going to win their first title. God, it's going to happen, isn't it? I thought we would be this weekend, and we're going to be talking about it shortly. Our last semi-final that we won, we'd be in an FA Cup semi-final this weekend. We'd be third, and Conte would be there, and he hadn't quite blown up yet, because you give it about a year and a half. He's blown up early, like Mourinho did, and that's where I thought we would be, and so it's a disappointment. I think the big thing for us, I mean, everyone talks about Kulusevski being injured. He actually, when he got injured, because he got injured in international break, he wasn't getting picked. Richarlison was playing at the time starting. Kulu was on the bench. I think the big thing for me is Bentancur, really. I think he's a smashing player, and he really kicked on this season as well. And Hojbjerg, who I'm not a fan of, before the World Cup, Hojbjerg and Bentancur were playing a bit more advanced. When he was getting Bissouma on and they were playing 3 in midfield on the occasion of changing it, Hojbjerg had his best assists and goals record before the World Cup and was having his best spell at the club. Since the World Cup, Hojbjerg stunk the place out, but I think he's been overplayed. And I think Bentancur's been a massive miss. And I really hope he gets back to how he was, but it's a long way back after that injury. And when we're planning for next season, I would factor in whatever we get out of Bentancur as a bonus for next season. I just wouldn't rely on it. So I think that's been the big key, is Bentancur.
Weirdly, and it doesn't feel like this if you read any of our Twitter fans, etc., we're about where I thought we'd be. I thought maybe a few points higher, maybe we'd be 4th, but we've been 4th most of the season. I think we've been 4th or 5th most of the season. And I think more or less that's where I expected us to be. I didn't expect Chelsea to be completely self-combusting.
No.
I thought they'd be in it. I thought Newcastle would be around the top 6, possibly troubling us. I didn't expect
Do you think Liverpool would be better?
Because I thought Liverpool would be top 4, no problem whatsoever. So when you factor all that in, and then you've got, City, I didn't think Arsenal would be winning the league, but I thought they'd be in the mix, 3rd, 4th. So 5th, 4th, where we've been most of the season, that's about where I thought we'd be. Sad truth of it is, it just doesn't feel like that, does it? Because the football's been so bad, so uninspiring, but we probably are about where we should be. That is honestly the truth, isn't it?
I agree.
But I think the other thing as well is that the football's been crap. Conte's gone, and the general mood around the place.
But the other thing, Dave, the thing with Conte, I didn't expect him to what did he have done his gallbladder out? Didn't expect that. Didn't expect, and to miss a load of time at the club. I didn't expect, the fitness coach to die. It was a big part of Conte's team. Didn't expect the amount of injuries that we've had. And as you've touched on already, there's been significant injury disruption to the squad, albeit in a World Cup year, you do kind of expect that. But we do seem to have been worse affected than our peers, our rivals for those top spots. So given all of that, we probably are where I thought we would be. Now, we can all turn around and say it's not good enough. And I get we want to win stuff, it's not good enough. But I still go back to the FA Cup being the golden opportunity and us completely blowing it by not playing our best players, which will annoy me forever and a day. But we are probably about where I think we should be. The question is, do you think we will sneak fourth? So I'm going to go round you all and tell me, do you think we'll get fourth or not? Pav, I'm going to start with you.
No. As blunt as I can be,
Even with your hat on.
Hat or no hat?
Sorry, I'm not putting my positive hat on here. I think we're going to get 6th, 7th. Because Newcastle are creeping behind us. Brighton are. We've got all these teams that are, creeping up. And I don't think, especially with our next couple of games, we've got Man United, we've got Newcastle, we've got Liverpool. I don't think we're going to get those points. Maybe draw, but I don't think we're going to get 3 points. And that's where we're going to slip up. And that's where we're going to miss out on the top 4. As much as everyone's like, yeah, we might get the top 4, have faith. I don't have that faith because we're Spurs. We slip up, and especially on these sorts of games as well, I'd be shocked if we get the 3 points.
Yeah, I think we've blown it by, the Southampton result. That was we needed a little bit of a buffer going into these games against Newcastle, Liverpool, Man United. Ultimately, Jack, what's your thoughts? Fourth,
yeah,
on or not?
Yeah, you're right though, caller. We really dropped the ball during that period before, during that run up to the Southampton game. There were a lot of easy games in that period where we could have picked up a fair amount of points and to allow us to maybe drop points here and there for the rest of the season. And that's actually the reason I actually think we won't get fourth, to answer your question, is because we dropped points previously in those games. We're now coming up against Newcastle away, Liverpool, Man United. These are kind of must-win games, or games that we really need at least a point in. And had we picked up points in those previous fixtures, we could have actually maybe been in a better position and could have done maybe with a bad result or something in these games. But now we can't give ourselves that chance. So we have to show up in these games. And the way we've been playing, we certainly don't look like a team that's good enough to be able to beat Newcastle and Man United and those sort of teams. So unless we get lucky against them,
we're
and
a
we
funny
just show
team,
up
though,
on the day.
Jack.
Yeah, that's where I was going to say. The optimism is that we just are the team that can show up.
I thought we'd have beaten City, It's
So if that type of version of ourselves continues for the rest of the season, we probably could get fourth. But I think at this moment in time, the way that we had dropped points previously makes me very unoptimistic and very unpositive situation to pick us to go to fourth. So no, I see us finishing fifth, though. I don't think Brighton are going to finish ahead of us. I think they're actually on the down at this moment in time after dropping points against Brentford. They drop points against us. They're not in a good, their Zerbi's having a hissy fit every day. Doesn't seem like they're in a good position right now. So I would say we finish fifth.
JP?
Look, it's in our hands because we have to still play United and Newcastle, as far as I'm aware. So it's in our hands, but I don't trust us to get wins against either of them. And we will need to beat both of them if we're going to finish fourth. So, I see us fifth. I think that's probably about as good as we can expect or are likely to achieve.
DaveO?
Well, same old story. You look at your Evertons, where I still can't get over the fact that with 10 men Everton, we still got 3 central defenders at the back. That'll live with me for the summer. And, our management team of Stellini and Mason taking us to the end of the season doesn't fill me with hope. And there's an opportunity because United have got an injury crisis and they've got a semi-final this weekend, and they got
Martinez and Varane both injured, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got an injury crisis as an opportunity. But if I look at Villa away, who are in really good form, if I look at Liverpool away, and we've got to go to Newcastle with Porro and Perisic as our wing backs and Longley on the inside, does not fill me with hope, and the potential for Romero to be suspended. I think that actually, the Southampton game, where we started looking really shaky at the back was when Ben Davies went off. I know a lot of people are slagging off Ben Davies, but I actually think Conte's improved him. And I actually think that when he played left wing back, and we looked at and that's when Longley had his best spell because Davies was protecting him. And Davies looked quite good. I mean, I'd keep Davies around next season.
Davies is all right.
Yeah, I think so. But I think that in typical Tottenham fashion, we had our chances to put this away and give ourselves a buffer, and we haven't done it. And we'll look back on this season. This is kind of like a Leicester season where a lot of the big boys haven't had a good season, and we haven't taken advantage of it. So I think we'll end up, I think we'll be 5th.
It's disappointing because this top 4 race has felt like who can suck the least to finish inside top 4. Yeah. And we've been a pretty bad team this season. So I'm surprised that we couldn't find ourselves to just be, it feels like you just have to be average to finish inside top 4, and we can't even fathom that.
For as long as I can remember Spurs even being in the conversation about top 4, though, that's been the case. It's been when you get to about this point, it's like, well, who's going to throw it away and who's going to just fall into that 4th position?
I think I'd say is Man United, according to their fans, are having the best season since the Fergie era, right? And they're 3 points above us, albeit with a game in hand. We've got to play them at our place. I mean, it's not all is not lost. It's just the way we're playing, isn't it? It's just the way we're playing, and the fact that Stellini's in charge, and I don't have any faith in Stellini whatsoever.
Didn't they finish 2nd under Jose?
They did, but they didn't. You know, I don't think the football was very good.
But they don't want to say that. They just don't want to.
Yeah,
admit
they don't.
They had a better season. That. Yeah, no.
They won a trophy as well.
Because Ten Hag's in charge now, and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you look at the facts on paper, they're not that much better off, are they? Like, hardly at all. So it's a difficult one. I can't see us finishing 4th. I really can't. Newcastle, I thought they were going to drop. They were in terrible form until recently. I think they ground out a couple of wins. United are rocking a little bit. So, I mean, who could it be? I think we'll be 5th. I think that's probably about right. But I think the top 4 is there to play for. If Spurs can turn it on, if they can click, which I've been waiting for all season. If we can click, it's there for the taking. It's absolutely there for the taking. And this by the way, these 3 games, you know, we picked this out of the fixtures months ago. These are going to be the make or break fixtures, aren't they? It's like you couldn't write how good those fixtures are from a TV perspective. But Newcastle away, I don't fancy us getting anything, if I'm being really honest, a point at best. United, I can see us beating them equally. Our record against United is pretty terrible. And Liverpool away, equally record terrible. So, you know, I would say a max of 3 points from those 3 games, which would sink us in the top 4 race.
We need 7. If we're to do it, we need 7 points out of those 3 games and nothing less.
And nothing.
I think we could get away with 5.
Happen, right?
I think we could get away with 5, but I agree.
I think you have to take maximum points off Newcastle and United because one of those will end up being that person that we're pipping for 4th. So
I agree with that. You have to take 3 points from either Man United or Newcastle. You can't take 3 points from Liverpool.
3 points from Liverpool doesn't help.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We'll see. It's certainly going to make. I mean, at least we've got something to play for still at this stage of the season, I guess.
The top 4 trophy in the DVD. Is that what we're playing
for?
Top 4
trophy in the DVD. I don't think we do DVDs anymore, JP. It's all available on Spurs Play.
Oh right, sorry.
Yeah,
I'd moved one step forward from the VHS that DaveO remembers. So
well, I was going to say Betamax was Dave's bag, but there you go.
What's Spurs Play?
What do you mean? What Spurs Play?
Oh, is that Levy Vision?
Levy Vision.
Levy Vision.
Yeah,
it's like Blockbuster, but you don't get out of your car.
Levy Plus.
Right.
There's nothing to get you out of your seat either. You got great titles like Lucas Moura Origins. Anyway, let's talk about the football this weekend. So we're going to do predict the score. I'm going to give you a fixture each. We're going to go through and predict these fixtures. So, DaveO, Villa Newcastle. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, really good game.
Yeah, but we obviously want Villa to win this, so Villa will win 2-1 with a Watkins brace.
I can genuinely see that. I think Villa are on top form, and Goodibin is getting the best out of them, isn't he? I mean, it's it's a shame really, but let's get all your predictions on Villa. JP,
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Villa. Yeah.
Jack.
A 1-1 would be really nice for us.
How many points are Villa behind us? They're not that far behind, are they?
No, they're scarily creeping up on us, and
Yeah.
that one game a week for them really has been helping them out, I think, with Unai Emery. I'm going to say a 1-1 because that would be grand for us. That would help us out.
Pav?
I'm going to agree with Jack, 1-1, because, if they get the 3 points, they'll be creeping up behind us because they are on 47 points. So they get 3 points, they will be creeping behind us.
Yeah, I'll go for a Desmond 2-2 for that one. Chelsea versus Brighton. JP, talk to me. I did like Bowley's prediction went very bad, by the way, midweek. He said they're going to win 3-0, and they lost, obviously, 2-0.
I want to say Brighton 2-1, but this could easily be a 1-1 as well. In fact, all of these on this screen could be a 1-1.
It's a tough game, isn't it? Tough game. Jack, any view on this one?
It's just a shame Graham Potter couldn't play the second round of fixtures of his local side. He couldn't even make it that far to play Brighton the second time. So poor guy. That just shows how bad he was doing, that he couldn't even last that long. I'm going to say a 1-1 as well. I could see this being a frustrating game for Brighton, and then Chelsea somehow maybe get like an equalizer at the end or something.
Pav, what you saying?
I'm going to go Brighton 2-1. I don't think that Lampard's great for Chelsea, so I don't think that he's going to do anything for the club. So, if I'm being completely honest, I think Brighton will win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Brighton will be licking their wounds after the Tottenham game, and will be going full guns blazing. So I can see a Brighton win. Let's go 2-1 as well. Everton, Fulham, DaveO?
I think Everton will win 1-0 in a really dull game.
Okay, JP?
Fulham 1... No, 1-1.
Jack?
Mitrovic still suspended?
Don't know.
Yeah, he's suspended forever.
Yeah, it seems like it. I would say, Sean Dyche gets the win then if there's no Mitro.
And Pav?
Everton 1-0.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think Everton will scrape it. Southampton Palace. DaveO?
Roy Robson has got them playing expansive, beautiful football like Brazil in the 1970s World Cup. So Palace 5-0 for me.
5-0. JP?
Southampton 1-0.
Ooh.
Jack?
Hodgson free-flowing football is in. I'm with DaveO. I'm going to go for like a resounding 3-1 win for Palace. I'll say 3-1, slightly more conservative.
I'm going to go with that as well. Pav?
Palace 2-1.
We've done Spurs, Bournemouth, Wolves, Brentford. Wolves picking up a win last week. DaveO, what are your thoughts?
I'm putting a lump on Tony to get a brace. 2-1 Brentford.
You hope so, because that's in your fantasy football league, right?
He's in my team, yeah. No, he's not actually. Watkins is.
Well, you might want to revisit that. JP?
0-0.
0-0?
0-0. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Dear.
I won't be turning it on.
1-0 win for Wolves, the 400th 1-0 win of their history. And then I could see Lopetegui and actually Thomas Frank. If there's going to be a fight between managers this weekend, I could see Lopetegui and Frank getting into it.
My dad loves Wolves so much, so I'm going to say a 1-0 win. Pav?
Brentford 2-1. I can see Tony scoring as well, Dave. So
Yeah,
Very good.
Big Ivan Tony. Man City Leicester. Oh, Dave, cricket score surely.
Yeah, I reckon Leicester will win 3-0. I mean, they've got Dennis. Is it Dennis Smith, isn't it? And they've got him back. They've replaced Rodgers with no one for 2 weeks, and now they've got Dennis Smith, and he took Norwich down last season. So I think City are going to win 5-0. The question for fantasy league players is whether he's going to play Haaland or not. When's the second leg of the Champions League? Is it this week?
Yeah, it will be next
it
week.
will be Wednesday.
Follow
Won't
up.
it?
So is he going to play Haaland or not? That's the question.
How many
fantasy
bout
league.
face on goals? There could be some bout face on goals in this one too.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Dave, except I think Haaland will come off the bench for a little bit and score 3. So I'll go 8-0 Man City.
wow.
My lord, 8-0. You should put a bet on that. Jack?
Let's go for 2-0. Maybe it's not as big. It'd be funny if Iheanacho scored.
Yeah, Nacho. Pav?
I'm going with Man City 4-0 and a Haaland hat-trick.
Oh.
Yes, double put. Get him in as captain in your fantasy team. He's going to play. I'll take that. I think it's going to be 3-4-0. Easy. I hope Leicester get relegated just because I hate them. West Ham versus Arsenal, DaveO.
Two of my favourite teams and favourite set of supporters. It's just going to be, at the government-funded Olympic Stadium. David Moyes versus Arteta. I can see the Goons winning it 3-0, unfortunately, as they make their march towards the title. And they go and live on a mountain in Tibet when they do win it.
I'd like to put out some more positive energy, Dave, and I agree that our London rival will win 3-0, but it will be West Ham.
What?
We can only hope. We can only put the energy out there for the universe to suck up and give back to us.
What's going on in Melbourne this morning, eh?
I never thought I would be cheering West Ham on.
Never.
Jack?
David Moyes got 2 good results in a row. There's no way he could get 3. So sadly, I think Arsenal are gonna win this
I'm
one.
probably with you. Pav?
Sadly, I'm going to have to say that Arsenal are going to win 2-0. And if I'm putting my positive hat on, it's
keep the hat on. Keep
West
the hat
Ham
on.
to win 2-1. But I know that's not going to happen.
We need to get some of your hats and just pass them around the cheese room, Pav. We need those positive hats on. Get that energy up.
It's been a very hat-themed show tonight, both metaphorical and physical.
I'm saying, well, it's always a hat-themed show with Jack and JP on. Look at them.
I
They love a hat. They love a hat.
It's more just because I don't want to. I want to spare the viewers from my bald melon on top. So, it's a necessity.
Yeah. I'm going to say West Ham are going to win 2-1. Forest versus Man United. Oh, God. DaveO. They've got a lot of injuries, Man United.
So I think Forest, I fancy Forest to win 1-0 with a Serge Aurier 35-yard screamer as he goes racing to the corner flag.
Arise.
Screaming into the camera saying, "This one's for you, Sonny. You've been shackled all season."
Arise, Serge Aurier.
What minute? What minute is it going to happen in, DaveO?
19 minutes, 20 seconds.
Excellent.
Put your bet on.
I'm also going to agree with Forest to get a 2-1 win.
Jack?
1-1. I think it could be a dull but intense game.
I mean, if it's 1-1, that gives us a big favour, doesn't it?
Yeah. It'd be huge.
Pav, positive hat on?
I'm going to have to agree with Jack here. I think it's going to be a draw. I reckon it's going to be 1-1.
I'm going to say, sadly, we're all deluded and Man United are going to win like 3-1. I could wish for otherwise, though. Right, Leeds, Liverpool. DaveO, unpredictable, wasn't this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, let's hope that the linesman doesn't elbow Robertson this weekend and he's recovered from his serious injury, because there would have been no reason for Robertson to go up to the linesman as they walked in the tunnel together. Maybe he was inquiring after how the linesman's family was at the time.
The linesman's all right, by the way. He's kept his job.
Good. Because I think the amount of abuse that linesmen and referees get is disgraceful. I'm going for 1-0 Leeds.
JP.
I want to agree, but I think Liverpool are going to really turn up. I think it could be a 4-1 to Liverpool.
Oh.
Interesting. Okay, Jack.
Leeds are in actually decent form for considering where they are. So I'm going to say I'm going to say Desmond, actually, in this one. I could see this being a high-scoring game.
Okay. Pav?
I think Liverpool are going to win. I'm going to go with a 2-1.
I think Liverpool will win. Easy. 3-1. No problem whatsoever, sadly. But there you go. That's where we're at. Our remaining fixtures, Bournemouth, obviously, then Newcastle away, Man United home, Liverpool away, Palace at home, Villa away. Oh, it just sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, we're not getting top four. I'll put it there now. Right, let's talk about something more positive and happy. Is Gaza going to have a crack? He is, Oh, I say, who remembers this? Let's go around the room. Pav, do you remember this?
I mean, I wasn't born then, but
You weren't born, okay.
I've heard about this and I've watched actually a part of this. So yeah, I've seen it. And it's classes.
This is where I get to feel old. Jack, you were embryonic at this stage, were you not?
Yeah, 6 years before my conception.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, but I watched it this morning now, so that's the last time I saw it.
Okay. DaveO?
Well, I think most of this panel are of an age that I'm old enough to be their father, so I'm depressed about that already.
Vader.
Thank you. And I was actually in Israel at the time and went hitchhiking across Israel with two Gooners and a Man United fan, because according to one Gooner, we could go and watch this game at someone's house. We turned up at this house, didn't know who they were, they didn't know who we were, and they didn't have the game on. So we hitchhiked back to where we were whilst the Gooners were ringing home, and we were 2-0 up. And then we got back to where we were, and we won 3-1. And then we had this old telly on with the aerial on top. We were watching the highlights, and then just as Gaza was taking that run up, some idiot thought the screen wasn't right, adjusted the thing, and the whole thing went off. So I didn't even see Gaza's goal for another month. So I wasn't there, but I was there for when Donkey won the derby 2 years later. But an amazing day, great part of our history. And Gaza, what a player he was. Great player.
We've done the Sonny comparisons, DaveO. Gaza and Cliff Jones. I mean, you were alive and kicking through both of those eras. Which one?
Well, Cliff Jones is a great player. Not as good as Len Dukerman, who was, he was a great player. And the 1901 FA Cup final, I'll tell you something, you had to be there. It was a great atmosphere. Gaza, I think Gaza just shades it over Cliff Jones. Another Welsh wizard that we had, like Gareth Bale.
I think Cliff Jones has got to be better than Gaza looking at his record, but there you go. JP, do you remember this, or is this just like folklore to you?
A little bit of folklore. I'd love to say that I sat down and watched it through the womb and jumped for joy. And at that point, I became a Spurs fan. But no, it was slightly before my time. That said, I have watched the match. previously. And that goal is something else. Like, that's up there with the best free kicks you've seen.
What
A little bit of
born?
Ben. 92.
I hate you. Yeah, I remember this. So yeah, I was born in 82, so I must be like 9 years old. I remember sat there watching. I just decided to become a Spurs fan, by the way. And,
Right.
And then
like you had an option.
I did have an option, yeah, because my dad was originally a Charlton Athletic fan.
And you didn't choose the glory of Charlton
being
Athletic
brought up
over
in
Tottenham.
Woolwich. Charlton are obviously the dominant team there. And I chose Spurs on the basis that Gary Lineker and Paul Gascoigne were Spurs players, and saw them play at Italia 90, etc., and that was that. But yeah, this goal, I watched it going on telly. What a goal! It was just unbelievable goal.
It doesn't, like, a lot of those goals from that far out, you've got to get them to kind of either bend significantly or get them up and down.
Yeah,
but he's just hit it flat, and it just
Rocketed
rises up to the
corner.
rises up to the corner.
It's a beautiful goal. And if you haven't seen this, you should check it out. Gazza's first goal for Spurs was against Arsenal without a boot. That was amazing. But yeah, I mean, just the game really. I've watched this game several times, and Gazza was strong. He was a bit of a tank, but I watched the cup final back. I mean, DaveO, I don't know if you were there, but the FA Cup final that year, obviously we beat Forest. Was it 2-1, I believe? Des Walker own goal, the winner, was it?
Yeah, so I was still in Israel for that, so I watched it on Jordanian TV with world service on the thing. So I watched that one, and
hello.
And that was a very, a bittersweet day, because you had Gazza obviously going off injured and never quite the same again. We really did see the peak of Gazza, which is all too brief.
Yeah, I mean, he got, but the tackle that he did, I mean, Christ almighty. But the tackles in that game, that's what I was going to say. It doesn't seem a long time
sent off in the first 5 or 10 minutes or something. Like,
it doesn't seem a lot that long ago to me. Obviously, it is. It's 30 years or whatever. But it's incredible the tackles that went in. Then you just get absolutely sent off for now. Can't believe it sounds so old.
That's a great comment from Rid.
So disappointed. Which one's that? Sorry.
Let's get that up. Look at that
pint glass at the telly. Beautiful.
That is beautiful.
That's what memories are made of, Rid.
It is. But yeah, just I mean, I watched the 9-1, but when Gazza injured himself, that was an absolute shocker of a tackle, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he really did. I mean, you was more of a traditional Tottenham team where you had two world-class players in Lineker and Gazza, and Lineker was probably just past his peak. You had two good players in Eric the Viking, who I loved, and obviously Gary Mabbott, legend of our club. And then there's kind of like everyone else. Paul Stewart was kind of coming into it.
Paul Stewart, David Howell.
That's right. And then I remember, I think it was the 4th round against Oxford, and we were just pissing around with the ball going nowhere. And Gazza just said, "Give me the ball," took it, and then just beat 3 players and scored. And he was at his peak. And Gazza had just come back from a hernia operation. They gave him about 45 minutes against Norwich in the week. They gave him 60 minutes here, and he did what he did. And there was I think Venables had friends in the media. He leaked that the Gooners had got their FA Cup final suits fitted, like, they were going to win it and this, that, and the other. And the Gooners were like pretty unbeatable that season. I think they lost one game against Chelsea in the league.
They were a good side, yeah.
They were, and a proper George Graham long ball team. And we shot them. Really, very sadly, that's the last FA Cup semi-final that we won. And who would have thought that?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is genuinely crazy.
Yeah.
We're shit, aren't we?
Oh, man. Come on.
It's been a sullen decline as we talk about these glory years, and then it's like...
I think the thing that upsets me the most, JP, and you might not get it, because And again, I feel like an old man. I'm only 41. But back then, the FA Cup really meant a lot. Like, it really meant a lot. Today, it doesn't seem like it means much at all. Like, there's no way in an FA Cup, last 16 or whatever, we would have arrested Gary Lineker in Gaza. Like, again, regardless of who we were playing, there's just no way. It was seen as the trophy, outside the league, it was the trophy to win. It's just changed. It's just changed so much, and the disappointment is, I still see it as a really relevant, important trophy with so much history. But it's the most historic cup in world football for me, and we should be going hammer and tongs to win it. And I wasn't a massive Conte out guy because he's a world class manager, but he did piss me off that night because we could be there now. We could be at Wembley in the semi final, no problem.
Yeah, but but I know that you're pissed off with Conte because he didn't play Kane, Romero, and I think Skipp was on the bench. I'm really sorry, but that squad
doesn't matter, Dave. The principle. It's principle. You play. If you're serious about winning the FA Cup, you play your best team. You don't piss around and go, well, it's better than what they'll put out. You play your best team, your best players, because you want that trophy. Like, I understand there's an argument that says, well, Richarlison cost 60 million and the Sheffield United striker, he cost 1 million, and they rotated 8 players. Doesn't matter. You play your best team. If you want to win a trophy, you play your best team in it, regardless. It should have been a priority, and it wasn't. So I understand the argument, but for me, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for Conte and what he did. You play your best team. If you were serious about that competition and you really want to win that trophy, you play your best 11, and Harry Kane needs to be on the pitch. End of.
You probably do. You there's no excuse then if you do play your best team, because then the
I can understand if you're away to Colchester in the fourth round and you want to make a shitload of changes. That makes sense, right? But you're playing Sheffield United, who are high. Let's not disrespect them. They're a high championship team. They're in the top 6 of the championship. The championship is a fucking tough league. It's an away game. It's at a ground where it's going to be hostile. You have to play your best team. It's ridiculous that we didn't.
And this is a good point made by Cantab, because I think the narrative up until then was Conte's not been backed. We get Porro in at the end of the window. It was like, if the whole narrative was if you back Conte, then you're against Levy. This is a ridiculous argument. And then I think where it turned against Conte was that Sheffield United game, and he wasn't even there. Obviously, he was recovering, but he picked the team and all the rest of it. But I still, I stand by the fact that that's a team that should have beaten them. And I was spoiled. I'm obviously old enough to, I went to 3 FA Cup finals in about 6 years in the 80s, and it was a massive deal. It was on the coverage, started very early on kids television. Chaz and Dave releasing the records, and what we used to do as a family is that we decorate the car with rosette scarves and all that kind of stuff, and go to the game. And we went up to semi-finals and things like that. Those were great times and really good fond family memories as well to have. And it was a big deal. And we've had memories like that recently in terms of what we've done and under Poch and things like that, and Redknapp and stuff like that. But actually, as I always say, going to a stadium and seeing your team lift a trophy, it bonds the players and the team and the supporters. There's nothing like it. There really isn't. Well, it will happen again.
I've only won 3 in my lifetime, Dave. So
I know. But we're all a bit down at the moment, and I am the grumpy sod out of everyone. But it'll come back some point.
I mean, if you think you're down at any point, my dad's a Wolves season ticket holder. They're struggling to fight relegation. That's what down is. That's what misery is. And he'll still renew his season ticket.
They're watching Dier.
The club. People need to get a little bit of a grip, if I'm being really honest. The world, Rome is not burning. Okay, we've got a few problems, but it's not the end of the world. People need to take themselves less seriously on social media. That's what I would say. Anyway, an hour and 44 minutes in. I've got loads more on the run sheet, but I'm going to say that's it for tonight because we've been going for long enough. It just leaves the guys on Monday and Wednesday more to talk about. So, Pav, first of all, thanks for joining. And tell us about Paxton Road TV.
Well, like you guys, we are a podcast, and we do every Monday we have Judge Jody talking about players' ratings and rating them, and during the week we do talking points, so speaking about random stuff around Spurs, whether it's around manager stuff, Levy, or just rants in general. And we also do preview shows like you guys, previewing the games ahead, and then we do a review show straight after the games. So if you are interested, guys, head over to Paxton Road TV.
Judge Jody, I like the sound of that. That sounds well cool.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Well, Judge DaveO, you'd just be like, no, guilty, proven guilty on everything.
Sat in a darkened room all day.
DaveO, thanks for joining from the land down under.
Pleasure to be on. It's great to have some debutants on this week. Hope you come back on, Pav, and great debutants who don't quite like Daniel Levy. Even better.
I don't think anybody likes Daniel Levy. You confuse liking someone with not agreeing with everything you say.
I think that's just a very convenient made-up reality that people like Daniel Levy and they're Levy-in people and stuff. I think
there is no Levy-in. I see this bollocks.
The conveniently made up.
There is no Levy-in. There's just like, I don't quite agree with your view. Well, you must fucking love him then, you Levy lover. Yeah, that's what it is.
DaveO's been on Twitter for a hot minute and he's already gone, nah, you're one or the other. You're one or the other. You're with
us or against us. Yeah.
You're a big Levy lover, you are. And do you like Tears for Fears?
JP, thanks for joining also from the land down under.
Thanks for having me. It's been a good chat today, talking about DaveO's childhood and early team memories. It's been good.
We haven't got long enough to discuss Dave's childhood. Jack, again, from Brooklyn, New York City, baby. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for, no Hugo rants this time.
I stayed well away from that subject. I will save it for Monday's show. Yeah.
No sacred cow. We'll wait till the summer is really kicking on, and the sacred cow will come back. Looking forward to that.
No, actually, thanks for that. We're going to put Hugo on the sacred cow list.
It's been awful.
I think my debut was on a sacred cow. So
you did, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it. So. But yeah, thank you for having me once again. Good to be back. Thanks for letting Dave fill in for me last week as well.
No problem. And if you're at the game tomorrow, give it all you can. We need the points. We can get fourth. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.